Okay, good morning, everyone. If you could let me know that you can hear me okay. We have a chat or a questions panel off in your GoToWebinar panel. If you could, or section in the panel, if you could just let us know that you can see us and hear us okay, that would be great. And we're going to get started here. Colleen's adding some handouts. We got a lot of content today to cover from A to Z. So there's a lot of helpful content, handouts for you that you can download as a reference after this class. This class will also be recorded and added to our YouTube channel. So go ahead, take notes, follow along the best that you can, but just know that you can always go back and watch this on our YouTube channel. Just so everybody knows, if you haven't taken a class with my RealSource before, my name is Taylor Fidawa. I do our communications here as well as teach a few of our classes. And then my co-host or co-teacher is Colleen DeLang. If you want to introduce
Morning. Well, it's nice to see so many familiar names on the call popping in this morning. So, yes, my name is Colleen DeLang. I am the director of education here at My RealSource, and a little bit about my background. Also, a licensed realtor for 25 years. Makes me feel old when I say it that way. But I'm excited. This is one of my favorite classes to teach. One, because I get to teach with Taylor, and I swear every time we teach this class, I learn something new from you, Taylor. And two, it's hard to be bad on such a gorgeous fall, pure Michigan morning, right?
Yep. So this is, like Colleen said, one of our favorite classes to teach because it covers so much within Paragon, some of our third-party products, and really just tying them all together. So that when you get that new listing, we're going to go in from that very beginning, from your listing data sheet, tax records, researching that property, inputting it, all the features that are available for that, as well as what to do after your listing is live so that you can promote this and market it on social media if you would like. How the data flows, how the data works, all of that is going to be covered today. So fill up your coffee and get ready to take some notes. The way we're going to run this class is I take the second half, Colleen takes the first half. Don't be shy. Go ahead and use the chat or the questions. I'm going to have that open during Colleen's part, and then she's going to have that open during my part so that we can help you guys along the way. If you do have any technical issues that you're having, please call tech support. But if you do have any specific questions about what we're talking about or need something repeated or shown again, go ahead and use the chat and questions for that. But if you are having issues with your GoToWebinar, your computer, things like that, go ahead and call tech support because they can leave us open and they can go ahead and fix that and walk you through that so that you're not missing too much. Are you ready, Colleen, or do you want me to show anything? Are you still adding documents, or are you good?
I think I have got the very last document. I'm just doing my two-factor authentication that Brian turned on for our staff level. So,
I
but
did
no.
add just so everybody knows, give Colleen a second here. I just added our YouTube channel, so it's in the chat. So that link is coming through. If you click on that, that's where this video will be. We have playlists on every one of our classes on our products. And you can go in, you can click on that and rewatch any of the A to Z classes that we've done in the past, as well as this one. As well as classes on everything else that we teach too.
All right. So, and we have a good question to start off with, it looks like. So as Taylor mentioned, she's going to be handling the questions when I go over the demo portion, and then when she's doing her demo portion, I'll be answering her questions. So feel free to fire them away in that questions box. And I did get all the handouts added. For some reason, they were not there when we opened it up this morning, so I apologize for that, but they are all there now. There are some cheat sheets in the handout section talking about what Taylor's going to cover, labels and descriptions, how to add those to your photos, how to autofill your listings from tax records, how to create custom documents in cloud to wow your seller. So we're going to cover all of that. I love this because it's kind of our, call it the soup to nuts class. You know, it's kind of like A to Z. We're going to take you through just picking up the phone, getting that call to go and take a new listing, what you need to know, and how to easily find it. So with that, I'm going to turn off my fuzzy hair this morning, and we're going to get right into it. At this point, you should be able to see my screen. Taylor, are you able to see that okay?
Yep, everything looks good.
All right, terrific. We'll go ahead and get started then. So first and foremost, as Taylor mentioned, we record all of our classes. And there was one question that came through already that said, you know what, I didn't get last week's previous class. Where do I find that? So let me show you where you can find this class and all the other classes that we record. You can go right into Paragon. Under the resources section, you're going to find a whole section on education. This is where you can go to CE Marketplace. You can check your Con Ed credits. This is where you can go to our upcoming classes through the education corner. But the link that Taylor inserted for you just takes you right to this recorded webinar channel. Basically, it's our YouTube channel where we record this class and all of the others. You can go right to there, right through resources, click on videos, and you can see all of those previous classes. So again, if you've missed a class or you attended a class and maybe you took a class on Transaction Desk and you haven't written a transaction in a little while, you want a quick refresher, that's exactly why we record all of these classes so that you can go back at any time. Plus, we're going to cover a lot today. So if you just kind of need to review, or maybe you have to step out and take a quick call, hopefully to bottom line an offer, you can always go back to that recording and go right to that place where you left off. All right, so first and foremost, when you get that call to go, let's say, list a home, you want to start off by quickly doing your homework, right? And so the first thing I like to do as an agent is I want to put in the address, and I want to see, okay, I'm getting ready to go list that home. Has it been listed before? What are the details? How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? How do I get all the information to start researching that listing right from the beginning? So the first thing I do is I go into Paragon and I want to just, usually I use this power search right here at the top. Just type in that address, and as I can see, okay, that property that I'm going to potentially be listing has closed a couple of times. I can see it's actually closed 3 times by simply just putting in the address in the power search. Now, the one thing I like to do is I'm kind of like the Girl Scout, right? I always want to be prepared. I want to have all of the details in my CMA. Of course, I want to do a wowing CMA. I'm going to show you Cloud CMA's new live interactive version CMA. But I first want to start preparing by getting all of those details ready. So I'm going to click on Listings 3. And of course, that's going to open up those listing tickets so I can see when it closed, who had it listed. I can see that right here. I can see all of the details of what it closed for. And now I want to start doing my research, right? I want to be able to go in and start doing my homework. Once I have this ticket, now I like to actually have the MLS ticket right in my CMA. And the reason I do that is I want to show them that I took the extra time. I found out what it closed at, what date it closed on, what were their sellers' concessions, what type of financing. I want to have all of that right in my CMA. So the thing I do is I actually print this and save this as a PDF. So I will print this. I usually hit the Print Plus button, generally save it right to my desktop so that I can pull it into my CMA. But the other thing I want to do is I want to start doing my homework on the actual property. So to do that, I don't want to have to pay for that record, which you have to do in many cases. And by the way, the BS&A records just went up $6 a record now. But did you know, as a My Real Source member, that one of the benefits we give you is if you are looking in any of the gross points, if you are looking in Genesee County, Sanilac County, if you are looking in St. Clair County or Macomb County, did you know that we actually can pay that bill on your behalf if you use the easy button? That's right. So let me kind of show you where that is. So now let me also explain, because sometimes this gets a little confusing. Some people will say, well, Colleen, didn't have to pay for that record when I was looking at it before. Well, it does depend on if the municipality charges or not. And what I mean by that is not every city charges for the records. Used to be back in the old days, I remember the field sheets. There's a few of you on this call that probably remember. Susan Sternad, you probably, along with me, remember driving to the physical office, right, and getting those field sheets. Tom Ronselli, another one who I'm sure remembers. I remember when I just first got my license, one of the funny stories is I literally drove to, I think it was Brownstown. It was like a very, very small, it was actually somebody's house, believe it or not, where they actually kept the field sheets in the basement and would make a copy for you. But this was like 25 years ago, but they were open on Tuesdays and Thursdays from like 10 to 1, and literally got there and the man met me at his door and said, come in my basement and I'll make you a copy. It was a little creepy, quite honestly. But that's where we came from, right? Where we used to buy field sheets and they'd make copies of them. Now everything's online. However, certain municipalities charge for those records and certain ones do not. So there is a company called BS&A, which actually takes those online assessor records and they actually make them available. So instead of driving to get them, now you can actually see them. However, they just increased their fee to $6 a record. However, for my RollSource members, if you go through the way I'm about to show you, instead of sending you the bill or you having to get out your credit card and pay for it at the time you're pulling up the record, what it actually does is it defers the bill. It's still a $6 charge, but it actually comes to my RollSource. And that's a way we found we could give back to our members. So let me show you how to make sure you're going through that door and make sure that that cost is covered for you. So on your record, so on your listing tickets, you always see these colorful little icons over here to the right. These icons are basically quick action links that allow you to click on the link, and it allows you to go directly into that particular program for this specific listing. So instead of having to go in to another program, wait for that to open, type in this address, wait for that municipality to open, and then paying the fee, this is kind of an easy way to do that. Now, I am going to apologize. I say this on most of the classes. That little trash can looking icon, it's supposed to be a government pillar. I know, funny that it looks like a trash can, right? But it's actually the government pillar. When Brian, our chief technical officer, when he kind of stuffed it onto that button, I think it looks a little more like a trash can, unfortunately. But the idea is when you click on that link, it's going to take you directly into the BS&A record for this specific property. So instead, again, of having to go to different programs and enter in the information, it's really designed when clicking on that link to take you right into that BS&A record automatically. So you don't have to wait and you don't have to pay that $6 fee. Now, again, not every municipality charges, but all those $6 at the end of the year, they certainly add up. Now, what I like about this is where I can start doing my property research. So this is BS&A. As you can see, it took us right into the city record. We do this a little different than many other MLSs. We actually provide the live BS&A server. And what that means is if, let's say Susan, who's always so kind, Susan is going to have a closing tomorrow at the title company, and she just realized that her clients have $6,000 of unpaid property taxes. Well, Susan can actually instruct them to go down to the municipality, pay that, and as soon as that city assessor hits save, it's going to immediately be available for that title company to see in the BS&A record that it's now been paid. So using that live BS&A server certainly has its advantages. Now, another thing I want to point out here is that the photo that you see here, if you are using a photo, this is a public records photo. So you can actually save that photo, and maybe that's what I want to use for my front cover of my CMA. And I'm going to show you that in just a moment. So if I click on that photo, I can right click, I can save that image, and maybe that's what I want to use as the front cover of my CMA. Instead of that, usually it gives you like that Google overhead shot. I don't really love that. I want to be able to use a great photo that's already established in a public record to create that that front photo. We're going to do that in just a moment. But this is where, of course, I'm starting to gather my details to come up with my comps. I can see when the home was built, how many full baths, how many half baths, how many bedrooms, what's the size of the lot, what's the size of the square footage. I like BS&A because it will also tell you a lot of pertinent information, like, is it built on a garage? What is the frontage? Does it have a finished basement? All of that is going to be accessible right through this BS&A record. So yes, I can see it has a garage. It's almost 400 square feet, right? I can see that it does have forced air. It has central air and forced heat. I can see that it does have a basement. It's built on a, so basically I'm using this information to start to create my comps. Now, I also save this PDF because I like to put this right in my CMA. Because when they say, well, Colleen, where did you get that square footage? I think we might have more or less square footage. I can go right to that tax information, and I can say this came right from the assessor's office. Of course, and I just had this happen not that long ago. I was listing a condo in Clinton Township. I got a call from her mother had passed away. She was now living in the condo, and she called me and she said, you know what, Colleen, I have got to sell because I can't believe how high the taxes are. And I thought, well, kind of strange. So I met with her, going over her CMA, and I remembered to include the tax records right from BS&A, and I inserted them right in my CMA. So as we were going through, I said, you know what, I did notice that you have unusually high taxes because they were not homesteaded. So I asked the question, you know, is this your only primary residence? She explained her mother had passed away. She had received the condo, and she didn't know anything about homesteading taxes. So we went down to the city together, and she became a lifelong client because certainly the city, when they realized it should have been homesteaded, thankfully they rebated her all of that money, so she didn't owe those high taxes. She did end up moving anyway, but she was so grateful that someone took the time to actually explain with her, you know, what that meant, and she went down to the city with her so she didn't owe all of those property taxes. So having those records right in your CMA is so helpful when you're going through and asking these important questions. Also, many of the municipalities are now including things like the water bill and outstanding utilities. As you know, that water bill must be paid at the time of closing, or an escrow must be held, right? So we need to have, if there's in my last case, there was a $700 outstanding water bill on this Warren property. The property was only worth about $65,000. So a $700 water bill that needed to be paid, that certainly is going to affect our net out. So the idea is having those types of things right in your CMA so that you can address them as you're going through the CMA with your client becomes so valuable. So in order to, yeah.
We had somebody ask if the seller has added a bathroom, does that show in the public record?
If they pulled a permit to do that, then yes, that is actually going to be something that you'll see. I mean, they should be pulling a permit, by the way. Obviously, if they pulled a permit, that's going to show up in the permit section. Now, not every municipality has this set up the exact same way. Some of them you will find under the building department, as you can see here. Some of them will actually have a separate tab that says permits. This is really funny that you asked this question, Taylor. I just got a call from a good friend of mine at my office, and she said, you know, Colleen, I think that there was a fire on this property. There's no photos. The agent just listed it, but there's all these kind of red flags, like there was a waiver that you had to sign even before going in, that the bank would be held harmless, and there was a lot of unique scenarios on this. So we just went right into the BS&A record. We went into the permits, and sure enough, there were all the permits that from all the repairs that needed to be done, and several of them cited fire damage. So these are all things that you're going to want to check right in the permit section. A lot of times you're going to see that helpful information. If you see that pretty much the whole house has been redone and permits were all pulled at the same time, and you start reading the descriptions and you can clearly see that there was fire damage, these are all things you're certainly going to want to ask when you're sitting down with that homeowner. So yes, the answer to your question is those permits, if they've added a bathroom or they've added a garage. I had a client who actually added a second level. He owned a dormer company. These are all questions that you're going to want to see, and you should be able to see right within that building department. And again, sometimes it's just labeled permits. As you can see, it's here, permits is here. Sometimes you'll see another tab here that actually says permits. So the municipalities themselves sometimes will actually go in and label out exactly what, as you can see here, we're looking at permits. This one was done for plumbing, new furnace, new electrical. If they added a bedroom or if they added a bathroom, they will pull a permit and you'll see those permits in here. So really, really good question. Now, the caveat is if they added a bathroom and didn't tell anybody, well, then it would be a little harder for the city to know. But yes, most of the time you're going to see that that would be listed right under the permit section, which you're looking at right here. Okay, any other questions, Taylor? That was a great question. Nope. All right. All right, so jumping back, so I save that as I mentioned, and I pull that into my CMA. The other thing is there is a red button.
Hey, Colleen, sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. It was just,
okay.
What if it's not in public records because they didn't pull a permit?
Well, then if the homeowner did the work themselves privately, there's no way for the city to know that unless they pull a permit. So yes, the city would have to know if they just privately built a, let's say, a bathroom in their basement, the only one's going to know that that was done would be the seller. So yes, it would, the city would have to have knowledge of that. And that's certainly a question. If you see that the city only has knowledge of 2 full baths and you go in the basement and, you know, there's no walls, but there's a toilet. And I've seen that, honest to goodness, I couldn't believe I was seeing it. But yes, those would be questions like, oh, who did this work? Those would be questions you would want to ask when you're doing your CMA. So good question. All right, so this red button that you see here is also another way that you can start researching the property. And I bring this up because every once in a while, there is a discrepancy. What I mean by that is if you were ever in a legal situation, and hopefully this never happens to you, but let's say that you were in a legal situation and the judge were to ask you, the agent, where did you get these details? Well, the BS&A record is always the trusted source. It's what the judge would look at because it's what the city assessor knows about that property, okay? However, there is also another source, and it's called Realist. Realist is a combined source, and what that means is it takes some information from the MLS, but it also takes some information from the tax records. When you click on Realist, it's designed to do that beautiful single integration so you don't have to go to another program. But what it does is it gives you a lot of that same detail, but every once in a while you will find a discrepancy. And I literally had this happen, a little house in Sterling Heights that there was a second level added. Unfortunately, he never pulled a permit. He just added the second level on his own. And what that means is when I went to the Realist report, the MLS said it was 2 stories because it was listed by an agent, didn't sell, and that's why I was going there to relist the home. However, next to that, it said tax 1 story. So a lot of times you'll see MLS says one thing and the tax may say something different. So clearly, the tax record said it was a single family ranch, 1-story home. When I pulled up, I could clearly see that was not the case. It was a 2-story home. So in the Realist record, I could see the MLS said 2, but the tax said 1. Why I bring that up is that's one of those flags that you're going to want to ask the homeowner about. You know, I see that the tax records say 1 level, and that's when he said, yeah, I actually put that second level on. So my next question was, of course, did you pull a permit? To which his answer was no. That's where we started off asking those questions. So those are the types of questions that you can sometimes see as a red flag as you're going through and you're researching that property. So I save the realist record, I save the BS&A record, and I pull them directly into my CMA. I also like having the realist record because it will show you if the property, you know what, unfortunately, we're seeing a few more homes that are popping up that are foreclosures right now, right? Cost of living went up, inflation went up. A few more homes are now coming onto the market that were foreclosures. So you can see if a property went into sheriff's sale. You can also see if they refied recently, if it was, if they've taken a home equity line of credit. These things are also showing up on your realist record. So I bring both of these items right into my CMA so that as I'm going through the CMA with my client, we can address any of these situations that pop up. As you can see, it's very easy to print these. I generally print these as a PDF, and I'm going to show you how to actually pull them right into your CMA in just a moment. All right, so that's how we start our research. The first thing we do, kind of as a quick recap, we go in, we find, has the property been listed before? If it has, that's where we're going to start our research. Has it expired? Did the agent not get it sold? Did they buy it 3 years ago? I want to bring in that MLS ticket. I also want to bring in the public records from Realist and BS&A so that I'm showing where this information came from. The next thing I want to do is now I want to go in. I have my data. I want to find my comps. But of course, I want to compare apples to apples. So if you've never listed a home before, really when you're doing your due diligence, you are basically making sure that you're not listing a 1,000 square foot brick ranch and comparing it to a 5,000 two-story colonial, right? You want to keep it apples to apples. So how do you do that, sir? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go up to our search, and we're going to find what type of home it is. Of course, you can search almost anything right through this search icon. You can search your inventory, how much you've sold over the last 5, 6, 7 years. We keep 15 years of history, so you can quickly find that. You can search property histories when open houses are scheduled. You can go in and find your saved property searches. But really, in this case, what we're looking for is we want to find out what this seller can expect to sell their home for. We've got the details about the home. Now we want to search for those comparables. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on a single family or residential search. I want to find like homes. But of course, I want to find homes that are going to be similar to this one. And I want to do what an appraiser is going to do. And I want to stay within those guidelines to find out what it's going to appraise for. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, Colleen, things are selling for, more than appraised value. Well, you still need to know what it's going to appraise for. You need to know what comps that appraiser is going to select. Because if you get an over asking offer, let's say it's 20 grand more, but it's not going to appraise for that, well, someone's got to make up that 20 grand, right? So you got to know what it's going to appraise for as well. So in this case, I'm going to say that we are looking for a single family home. Obviously, we are looking for not leases. I want to know what it's going to sell for. And of course, the big dollar ticket is what did it close for? I'm looking for those closed numbers. But if you're like me, and a few of you on this call, I believe Susan Cernad and Tom Roncelli, they probably remember the days of Floyd Wickman. And I'm a huge Floyd Wickman fan still to this day. Really, really like just an entertaining real estate coach. He was kind of big in the 90s, 80s and 90s, but just a phenomenal guy. He would always say, if you're going to go to somebody's house, you better have all of the questions that they're going to ask. You better be fully prepared. And that means they know what's active in their market. They know what's active in their sub. They also know what's pending. And they're going to expect that you're going to need to know that as well. So you want to also, in my opinion, always include those actives and those pending properties, but really the derived numbers, the numbers we want, really come from closed. Now in this market, how far back? Well, right now you got over 1 million properties. That would be a really long CMA, right? Because we didn't put in 2 of the important pieces. how far back is an appraiser going to go for closed records? Well, I'm gonna be honest. I hate these stupid date calendars in the MLS. I don't like them at all. So I just want to slide over here and make it easy. I want to use the date range field. I'm simply going to go back 6 months because that's what an appraiser is going to do in this market right now. And instead of having to click into the date, click, 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 and then count 6 months out, kind of a pain in the neck, I'm just going to make it nice and easy. We're going to go 6 months back. What are some other details of the property? Well, I'm going to want to, of course, know that it is a 1-story. It's a brick ranch, right? I saw in those public records that it's a 3-bedroom home. I know that it was 1.5 baths. So I make sure that I get enough inventory. I'm going to go 1 to 2 baths here. I could see that it had a basement. And I could also see that it had an attached garage. Now, generally, when I am doing a CMA, especially in this market where there's very little inventory, I'm not putting in things like, yes, it had a fireplace, or maybe I'm not including that it was an attached garage. If you don't know, you could, if you get too many comps, you could always go into features and say, okay, show me just comps with finished basements or attached garages. You could actually be even more selective. But right now, we just don't have enough inventory. So I don't recommend in this market that we would use features. We'd kind of keep it just run of the mill. And you're probably thinking right now, lady with the fuzzy hair, you got 10,000 comps. Well, we didn't put in the most important thing, right? Location, location, location. So we're going to go up to area. And we could type in a whole city there, but then we got to dwindle our way through. And that's not what an appraiser is going to do. An appraiser in this market, especially in this particular area, is really going to look 1 mile from that subject property. So what does that mean? Well, that means that we want to base our comps on 1 mile from that property too. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to search by map. So I'm going to click in that search by map field, which of course is going to open directly to your office location. You can see my X is where the office location is. However, I want to now base my map right on the subject that I'm going to list. So I'm going to just type in my old trusty example here. I use this just because it's got a lot of really cool examples within a property. So the way I'm going to type this in is important because it uses Google Maps. You want to kind of subscribe to the less is best theory, right? This happens to be Wessel Drive, but you want to leave off the drives, the ways, the places, the circles, the boulevards, the avenues, things like that. You really want to keep it very specific. You want it to be the route street name, comma, the city. So I'm going to say, even though it's 41539 Wessel Drive, I'm going to do just Wessel, 41539 Wessel, comma, Sterling Heights. Then I'm going to click that magnifying glass and it's going to find that address and it's going to locate it on my map. Next, I want to do what an appraiser is going to do. I want to find comps with my criteria that are going to be 1 mile from that location. So now I'm going to do my 1 mile radius, but I want to show you some other really cool things that you can do with this. Let's say Susan Sternett, who, if you don't know her, she's been doing this a very, very long time, just one of the nicest, kindest people you'll ever meet. So she is going up, and let's say she's taking a listing appointment 2 hours away. And she doesn't want to drive 2 hours up there and then 2 hours back to do her CMA and then go back up for her listing appointment. But she kind of wants to check out the neighborhood and see, is it a close community? Are they right on top of each other? How are the lots? Are they a little bit bigger? I'd like to kind of see it. Is it tree-lined streets like my clients are looking for? She kind of wants to view the neighborhood. And that's where this little yellow Google man down over here to the right comes into play. Did you know if you grab that little Google man and you actually set him in front of your listing, that you can literally walk down the street, you can review the neighborhood, you can see houses to the left, houses to the right. And if you look really closely, that same flag that showed up on our property, when we put in our address, when it found that address, you can even see that's a picture of the house right here because it's using Google Maps to allow me to walk down the street. I can see the neighbor to the left, I can see the neighbor to the right, and I can go through the entire neighborhood. By the way, here's a little quick cheat for you. If you haven't allowed your clients to be set, or if you haven't gone in and set your clients up in Collab Center, you definitely want to check that out. If you are working with buyers, the new Collab Center that came out just a little over a week ago is amazing. It allows your clients to do this, but it allows them to favorite listings. They can set up an appointment with you to view the listings. They can ask questions. They can share them with others. I mean, it is really cool. Plus, it does some amazing things for you as the agent when they're using it. So a little plug, if you haven't checked out the brand new Collaboration Center, we've got some classes coming up. I'll show you where you can find them at the end. But it's really cool. And your clients can do this as well to check out neighborhoods without having to leave their home. They can actually just view them right on their computer. So a couple other things. So let's say that we've now, we have our circle. We've got our 1 mile radius, right? And we're going to use my other friend, Tom Roncelli here. So Tom Roncelli is, let's say he's having a great month. He has just listed these two. We're going to pretend these aren't 300,000. We're going to pretend that this is beautiful Lake St. Clair. You can tell I have little ones in my house, right? You know, I'm always pretending. So we're going to say that this river, this Clinton River, we're going to pretend that this is beautiful Lake St. Clair. And Tom Roncelli's been really busy. He has these $2 million waterfront properties right here. And although they're beautiful waterfront $1 million properties, well, we're not listing waterfront. We've got this little brick ranch way back here, which is off the water. So although we're excited about Tom and his $1 million waterfront listings, we don't want to pull those into our CMA because that's going to radically screw up what this house is worth, right? And we don't want to pull them all in and have to deselect a bunch. So what if I told you when you're searching for comps, not only can you draw your 1 mile radius, but you can even draw a shape on a shape to exclude things. So follow me for just a second. I promise I'm going somewhere with this. I'm going to actually click on my shape. And although I'm super excited about Tom's $1 million waterfront listings here, these two, I don't want to include them in my comparables because that's going to really screw up my number. Maybe you want to highlight the whole waterfront area. You can actually draw a shape on a shape. Now you're probably thinking, well, lady with the fuzzy hair, that didn't do anything. Well, there's just one more step. If I want to exclude a waterfront area, or maybe you want to exclude, maybe you have a subdivision where half is new construction and half was built in the 1930s. You often see this. I was just out looking at a property in Milford. Half of the subdivision is brand new construction, but the other half of the sub is those 1930s style brick ranch homes. But let me tell you, the price value radically different, right? So maybe I want to exclude that one little area of the sub that has those 1930 style homes. So what I can do is I can draw my shape on a shape, but instead of including that, I can exclude it, which basically now is going to remove that particular area. So I'm not forced to pull in all of those comps that I really didn't want. All right, so hopefully that made sense. So again, don't be afraid to draw a shape on a shape if you need to exclude an area from your CMA. To remove it, by the way, if you make a mistake and you just want to remove it, you can click on that X and it will pull it right off. Another thing that commonly happens, especially with no inventory right now, is what if you did your 1 mile circle, but you didn't get any comps? So again, we'll do a little bit of pretending here. So let's say we did our 1 mile radius. I'm just going to kind of move it in the center here so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Let's pretend for a moment nothing came up. And you're like, oh, geez, well, that's no good. Well, in this case, I don't want to go up, and I could put mile, mile and a half, mile and 3/4. I could do 1.75. I could, but what if I just want to open it up a little bit just to see if there were any other comps I might have missed just on a street or two away? Well, here's a good example. If you click on that shape that we just created, Did you know you can grab that shape and open it up just a little bit more to see if there were any comps? And there was. Look, it just pulled this 320 comp up for me. So instead of having to go to a huge number or to make that circle much bigger, and now you got to go through all of these comps, try just expanding it slightly by clicking on the shape. You can open or close it and open it up just a little more to make sure you're getting enough comparables. All right, so hopefully that's making sense. From here, now we've got our comparables. If you had too many, if you needed to go back and put in, like, maybe I want to put in brick, maybe I want to put in attached garage, you can actually go right back in from your map search by simply utilizing these little tabs at the top. So if you've missed anything, the other day I got all the way here and I realized, why do I have so many comps? Well, I had forgotten. I had not changed it just for sale. I had sale and leases here. So you can always bounce back and add more criteria if you need to. In this case, I've added actives and pendings. So what I really want to do is go through and I'm going to take a look at what I've pulled up as my comparable. So I'm going to hit my run search. Now, anybody who knows me knows that I have a little OCD. So looking at this sort of makes me crazy. So what I like to do is I like to sort this. How many closed? Really, in most scenarios, I am looking for 3 to 5 closed properties. But of course, I want to show them anything that might be active in their sub, anything that might be pending, so that they know that I'm really watching and very familiar with everything that's going on in their area. So the first thing I like to do is I like to go up here to the column topper and I like to basically sort that. So I'm seeing actives with actives. I can see, wow, there's a few more actives currently. And I can now take a look at the actives. I can also see how many closed I've pulled up. So I'm, again, trying to shoot for 3 to 5 closed, and I can also see that there's a couple pending. So with this many, in all reality, I would probably go back and put a little bit more detail in, like year built. As you can see, we're kind of all over the map here on year built. And I would put in a little more detail. But for the sake of time today, I'm just going to grab a few of these that I know I happen to know this area pretty good. I kind of grew up right here. So I'm just going to kind of grab 3 or 4 closed just for the sake of time. Now, again, with me having OCD, this is like a nightmare. We got half ones that we're using, half ones that we're not. So I like to use this checked button right here at the top. So I'm now just working with everything that I want to bring into my CMA. Here's the cool piece. When I'm taking a look at this, what I want to do is I want to pull, by using actions, I want to pull all of these into my CMA, but I want to do it without having to do any extra work. So I'm going to use the easy button. The easy button right here says actions. I now want to pull these into my Cloud CMA report, but of course I don't want to do it one by one. I want it to do all the hard work for me. So I'm going to click Cloud CMA, and it's literally going to take all of that hard work that we just did, and it's going to load them into my CMA report. So I'm going to call this Sally Seller. Of course, you could put in any notes that you wanted. Down here, you can see all of the listings that are coming over. The next thing I want to do is I want to start pulling in the subject property from the tax records. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to type in our address, and it's going to start quick filling that information, as you see right here. I'm going to pull that in. The next thing, you can see it's filled out how many beds, how many baths. If I need to make an adjustment there, of course I can. But instead of having like a Google overhead shot, which I don't like very much, I also want to pull in that great BSNA record, or that BSNA photo that we looked at. Remember in the beginning, I said, hey, let's use that public record photo. Well, I also probably want to crop it. I don't like that ugly date on there. I don't want them to see that. So I'm simply going to crop that so that now I have a really professional looking photo on the front cover. The Cloud CMA program itself is actually just 4 tabs along the top. All you have to do is follow the green button, or again, you can simply just click on the tab heading at the top. Now, by now, you may be feeling a little overwhelmed. We're going through a lot. You're probably thinking, oh my gosh, you know what, Colleen, we've covered a couple different things. We've done where to find the property records. We've done Cloud CMA. We are talking about, Paragon, how to do the search. Well, remember, there is a class on each one of these items. If you need to be better with searching in Paragon, there's a class for that. If you need more information on Cloud CMA, you want to make a wowing Cloud CMA report, well, we have a whole class just on Cloud. So don't feel overwhelmed. And remember, we are recording this. So if you've missed a step along the way, you don't have to panic and think, oh my gosh, how do I get those to go into Cloud? You can always go back to that one particular section. All right, so I'm going to just go back here. Looks like it's taking a second to load, so I'm going to pull that in here. Give me 1 second. We'll see if we can speed this up. Sometimes when we're streaming, it kind of takes a little bit longer to pull in more of the information. So once inside Cloud, there we go. Took a second there. Oops, open it a little bit. Sorry. So I apologize. Once inside Cloud, now again, you can actually go directly into any of the 4 tabs, but that first tab is basically your listing section. These are all the listings that we're pulling into our Cloud CMA report. If you get all the way to this point, you're like, yeah, I don't think I want to use this particular property. Maybe you go in and you're looking at it and you're like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to use this comp. I'm going to stick with the others. You can always deselect a particular comp, or this is a new feature that they've added. You can actually even add notes. I hate to say I was that agent way back in the day. In fact, I just pulled one out when I was cleaning my office not too long ago. I still have it handy. I was that agent back in the day who would walk in, with your CMA report. I had it all bound with the little spiral combs, that we all used to use. And I remember walking into this one particular home where, from the outside, everything was updated and absolutely immaculate. And then, of course, open the door to walk in. And the first thing I know, I always take my shoes off when I'm, entering a house, just out of habit. And I stepped in on Grover blue, like 5-inch thick carpeting. And every wall had those huge stick-on Brady Bunch wallflowers. You know what I'm talking about? Like 6 feet wallflowers on every wall. And then I realized, oh my gosh, this house has not been updated since 1970 when it was actually built. And so here's me in the bathroom with my CMA trying to rip the page out where I had my suggested list price. You know what I'm talking about? Well, the good news is that you now can actually put notes right in your CMA, and you can adjust your suggested list price on the fly. So you don't have to be like me and literally in the bathroom trying to rip pages out because you realize, oh my gosh, I priced this way too high for the amount of work it needs inside. So anyway, long story short, you can go in, remove a particular comp that you've previously added. You can add notes. There's even a great tool in RPR that allows you to figure out adjustments. Like if your house is the only house that doesn't have an attached garage, or maybe they've made some huge updates to their kitchen and you want to know what the value of that update might be. So a lot of cool things there too. But as we go through, if I wanted to leave notes or I wanted to put in a positive or negative adjustment for something that they did or may need to do, I can even put in a suggested list price range. And they do have a net sheet. I'm going to be honest, I don't particularly like the net sheet in Cloud CMA. I like the net sheet in ZipForm and Transaction Desk much better because it does all the calculations. So I pull that into my CMA as well. Lastly, I'm just going to customize my report so it looks exactly like I want. And let me show you that finished result. Now, again, don't feel overwhelmed. There's a whole class on this. I'm going to show you a finished report from a client we just closed. The idea is we're just giving you kind of a high-level look of all of the different products that make when you're going to list a home work together. So here's a finished product. It's got my branding at the bottom. This company page literally took me, I copied and pasted right from my website. So that's part of my template. But you can see how easy it is to now create these wowing CMAs. You can also, again, bring in those outside documents like our real list record, like our BSNA, our public records. I even like to bring in market stats. This is one of my favorite products. This was actually created with one click, believe it or not. But with one click inside our market stats program, this homeowner, when I sat down with her, I could easily educate her on why we might want to put her at the higher end of the price range. So when we listed her home and I sat down with her, there were 89 homes on the market in March 2023. I sat down with her, it happened to be April of 2024, so this year. There then was only 51 homes on the market. So we had a negative inventory of almost 43%. So as we're going through this, I can explain to her, well, last year we had a lot more homes on the market and there weren't that many homes to begin with. But then look what it did to our average sales price. Our average sales price went from 271 to 321, right? Supply and demand, not enough inventory. So therefore, you're looking at almost a $50,000, actually over a $50,000 increase in 1 year for the average sales price in Clinton Township. It also breaks down condos separately. So I love having this as part of my CMA. Educate that seller on what's going on. As we see some cooling off periods in certain markets, it's great to be able to show that in a graph that you can, again, create with one click. So even if you're new and you're not an expert, this is a great way to show that you are and you know what's going on in the industry. Again, bringing in our comparables. Now, another thing I like about Cloud CMA, you can choose the type of comparable report. I like to, wow, that's like a shocking blue. I like to use the one that has all the interior photos. So when Mr. Schmegegi says to you, well, Susan, does this have a finished basement? Well, you can go right to the second page and see, oh, wow, and that's an even shocking watermelon color. So the very, very vivid house for sure. So now I can clearly see, oh yes, this does have a finished basement. It's very bright and cheery. And I can go through that with the homeowner. So including all of those interior photos. Now, if you were going to print this report, I probably would not include all of the photos because you can have up to 99 photos in the MLS, but you can choose whether you want to show just one, want to show the first 12, or you want to bring them all in. They also have some great marketing pieces that are pre-written. This showed the homeowner that things were selling at that point for 105% of what they were listed for on average. And on average, we were looking at 13 days on the market until we went pending. So a lot of cool things already pre-written for you too. Again, you can have your own suggested list price, or you can choose to leave that off altogether. And it will even break them down by price per square foot. So love Cloud. They do have a brand new interactive piece, which I absolutely love. It does things that we've been asking for a long time. Let me kind of show that to you real quick. You create the CMA the exact same way. The only difference is how do you want to present it? But it does something that I think is really, really cool that you can't do with a PDF. And what I mean by that is, especially when you're showing comparables. So I'm going to jump over to our comparables page. Let's say Susan Sternad is sitting with the homeowner and the homeowner says, okay, Susan, but my neighbor closed 2 days ago and I don't see his comparable in here. Well, most probably Susan didn't choose that comparable because maybe it was a 2-story and it was a ranch. Maybe it was, 5,000 square feet and they had 1,300 square feet. There's probably a reason. However, how do you know if you don't see it, right? So the first thing it does when you're looking in the new version of Cloud CMA, the interactive version, it does break down the differences if they have more bedrooms or more bathrooms. As you can see, this is +1 bedroom. You'll see larger lots, larger garages. But what if they said, but Susan, I don't see Joe Schmegegi on here. Susan can simply click on the interactive map now, and she could say, oh, you mean the one on Other Street that you were talking about? She can literally click on it, take a look at it and say, well, actually, I didn't choose that because it had a much lower square footage than yours. Or if she did want to pull it out, maybe she did the CMA prep 4 days ago and they closed yesterday and she didn't see this one yet. She can add this one in by simply toggling it. She can change her entire report on the fly. So I can now go into my comparables and I can see that one that we just added. So I can see which one's closest, which one's most expensive, but I can change my report basically on the fly, which I love. All right. Any questions on Cloud, Taylor, while we're right here before we jump into the next?
I'm not sure how deeply you want to go into this, but there was just kind of a question about Paragon CMA versus RPR CMA. I know that for this is, Cloud, and what we like about Cloud too, but if you want to kind of mention the maybe a few of the differences between RPR.
Sure. So I'll give you the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So I am a huge Cloud fan. I've actually used 7 different CMA programs in the 25 years. I've used everything from Toolkit to Circle Square to there's been so many that have come and gone. I like Cloud because I think it's the fast and easiest for the consumer to understand. I like the visuals, I like the pre-written stuff, and I don't even do any of the upsells. I like out of the box what they have. Paragon CMA is not my favorite. I'm going to be honest. I think you spend a lot more time doing the Paragon CMAs. I don't think the finished product is as good. I don't think it's as customizable. There is Paragon CMA right inside of Paragon. I personally don't like it as much. And I think that's why over 90% of the people using Paragon also have adopted Cloud CMA. It does some things that Paragon just doesn't have built into their CMA program. Not that it's not, it's a fair alternative, but I think it's a lot more work, and I don't think you get the bang for the buck personally in the few times that I've used it. Paragon does have one thing that I will show you. Let's say Susan, and I don't even know if Susan has a brother, but let's say Susan Sternat's going to go and list her brother's home tonight. She already knows her brother's going to list with her, right? Maybe she doesn't want the whole fancy Cloud with all the bells and whistles that's going to wow the seller. Maybe she just wants to see these particular properties kind of in a side-by-side view, like broken down. There is, under reports over here to the right, there is basically a folder that says CMAs. Now, if she just wants a quick view of these properties stacked up side by side, she can go to the CMA folder, do the quick view, and you can even customize the fields that show up in your quick view. So if you're just you don't need the bells and whistles, it's family, they're going to list with you anyway, otherwise they're not going to be family anymore. Just kidding. You can go right over to that reports area and you can do those quick side by sides. If Susan is just going to call them and say, okay, here's what your house is worth, maybe she just wants to do a summary report that breaks down the numbers so she can see exactly what she's looking at, and she's just going to call and give them, here's what you should list at. So there are other report options that are in Paragon, but as far as the Paragon CMA, I'm just not, I don't think it gives you the bang for the buck. The RPR CMA also have used that. I like a lot of the RPR reports. The reason I don't like the CMA and RPR as much is because you cannot be as specific. Meaning in Paragon, I can, if I really want to get down to the nitty gritty, I can say brick. I can say attached garage with a fire. If I've got a lot of comparables and I want to dwindle it down so it's an exact match in my comps, I can do that in Paragon. You're limited to a much smaller set of fields in RPR. So there's my 2 cents on it. So hopefully that answered the question. The other thing is when you now have gathered all of the details, you've done your CMA report. The next step is, how do you prepare your paperwork? And again, we're going over a lot of products very quickly. We're just doing a high level, but where do you go for paperwork? And that's really going to be Transaction Desk. And there's a couple really cool features in Transaction Desk that almost nobody knows is there. And so let me show you the first one. The first one is when you're creating your paperwork in Transaction Desk, which by the way, you can find under resources. I did that kind of fast, so let me kind of back up. Resources is where you find all these tools we're covering today. So when you're ready to go into Transaction Desk, you go to resources in Paragon. Yes, I'm still on the election theme since it's what everybody's talking about, right? I want to go to online forms. I want to go into Transaction Desk, and this is where I'm going to start preparing my listing paperwork. But the last thing I want to do is have to add and manually type out a bunch of information. No, I don't want to do that. So in order to do that, I'm going to want to pull from the tax records, and I'm going to want to pull in everything from the owners of record to all the property detail. So I'm going to click on, I want to add a new transaction. And I'm going to call this transaction 705 features. And of course, I want to apply my listing packet of forms. I want to have all my things, everything from the copyright photo form for my photographer. I want to have my listing forms. I want to have my data form, my seller's disclosure, and lead-based paint form. I want all of that in there, right? So by the way, did you know that you can send your seller's disclosure form ahead and your clients can actually fill it out right from their email and sign it in the same step now? Yep, that's new. So that's another reason to take the Transaction Desk class. But in this case, I want to pull all of my property paperwork information. I don't want to trust another agent put it in correctly in my role in Paragon, right? I want to go to the property record and I want to get it from Realist. So I'm going to say, let's pull that. But instead of having to go look up a bunch of information, I'm just going to click on this magnifying glass to the right. I'm going to say I want to pull it from Macomb County because that's where the property is located. But I only want to put in 3 pieces of information. It's just like I was telling you with Google Maps, less is best. I want to put in the street number, and I also want to put in the route street name. That's it. Leave off the drives, the ways, the places. Don't fill in the city. Don't fill in the zip code. And I'll tell you why. Tax records are so specific that many times you'll get too many search results or no search results at all unless it's exact. So you want to do the less is best. As you can see, I immediately found it. And I now want to select that and I want to start my transaction from there. So I'm going to hit create. And basically what it's going to do is it's going to grab all that information and it's going to auto-populate it. Everything from the township, the tax ID, the legal description, the school district, the address, all of that is coming over for me. And it's even bringing over the sellers of record. So I can see who actually is the seller. Both 2 sellers here, Samantha and Anthony, and of course it fills in all my information as the listing agent. The next thing is the data sheet. This is one of those things that is a hidden secret, and I promise you, if you use this one time, you will love it and you will want to do it this way going forward. So I'm a huge fan of the auto population that we've done in the data sheet. But let's talk about real life scenario. So at this point, you're really just going in and you're filling out your listing paperwork, your exclusive right to list, you're getting your lead-based paint disclosure and seller's disclosure. I've applied my packet, so all of those are ready to go. So when I'm getting ready to go meet with this seller, I have everything. However, this particular form, I don't have all of the details necessary to complete it. So what I mean is I go into the data sheet and I fill out as much information as I got from the property record, right? So I'm filling out square footage, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, all that important information. But there's some things I don't have yet, like what is the final listing price? Like what are the room measurements? By the way, Taylor's going to tell you a little bit about Kubacasa, one of my favorite products that literally in a 5-minute walk around with your phone out, you can do a free scan that measures the rooms for you and creates an awesome floor plan. She's going to give you more details on that, but you can actually copy and paste them right from Kubacasa right into this form. But that's not even the coolest thing. So, of course, once you get the listing paperwork signed, and now you actually have the listing, you can open up this form and you can fill in any missing details, like those room measurements that Kubacasa gave you, like that final listing price. But here's the coolest part. Once you've got that, you can click Upload Listing. What that basically does is it creates a partial listing for you or for your office admin to go in and finish up. Now, Taylor's going to kind of take it from here in just a moment, but one thing I want to show you is when you click that listing upload button, what it does is it creates basically an unfinished listing version for you. So I go into my partials. I can, of course, see anything that I have as a partial, but did you know that your office admin can also see partials? So if you're allowing them maybe to go in and add the remarks for you, or maybe your office policy is that the office admin has to review your listing before it goes live, or maybe they're adding your photos, they can actually see your record. They can open up that partial listing and they can actually complete it or review it for you, hit save, and your listing is live. So I love that. Lastly, when you're adding in your listing, remember that there are 2 required pieces that you only have 48 hours to add to your listing. One is you must have a minimum of 1 photo, 1 outside photo. You have to have that. You can have up to 99 photos in the MLS, but you have to have a minimum of 1 outside. So Taylor's going to talk all about photos, but the other piece is you must also have your seller's disclosure or lead-based paint uploaded within 48 hours. So I'm going to click Add My Document, and I want to upload my seller's disclosure to my listing. That's the reason we don't make it immediately go live. So let's say I want to upload my disclosure. I think I got one handy here. The idea is you can now add in your photos, and you want to always add your photos first before making your listing live. So let's see, I thought I had a seller's disclosure in here. Well, I guess we'll just use a regular PDF. We'll pretend again that we are, let's see, class examples, we'll use this one. Oh, here it is. All right, so I'm going to add in my seller's disclosure for Nature's Way. I knew I had one handy. I'm just going to simply click on it. And I'm going to add that description. And I want to make this public so everyone can see it. So if they're ready to write an offer, by the way, did you know your clients can now see seller's disclosures and lead-based paint documents in the new Collab Center? I'm going to make that a public document, and I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Now that seller's disclosure or lead-based paint disclosure has been added to the listing. Again, if you make a mistake, you can always check it off. Since this is someone else's partial listing, I'm going to go ahead and delete it. And you can add it and remove it that simply. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Taylor, who's going to show you all the fun stuff. But hopefully you got a few things from that we did multiple products there, but hopefully you can see how one product leads into another. And if you start your research with the public records, you push that into finding the right comps in Paragon, push that into an awesome looking CMA, take that and push it into your forms being completed. Now you can do that upload and you can create your listing in mere seconds instead of having to retype all that information or have your admin retype all that information. All right, Taylor, if it's okay, I'll turn it over to you here. Is that all right?
Yeah, that would be great.
All right, turning it over to you right now.
All right, you should be seeing the data sharing map.
I see it.
Okay, great. Let me turn off my camera real quick and then open that back up. All right. So I just wanted to kind of start with, once you have your listing set up, I'm going to dive into finalizing that listing that Colleen got started and added into a partial. But I'm going to show you guys why you want to keep it as a partial until it's ready to go live. So once you've added your photos, you've added your disclosures, you've added any promotional links and tours, make sure that everything stays as a partial, which is a draft, until it is ready to go live. Of course, that's just, because that's going to be the best service for your client, so that people get these push notifications that a new listing matched their search criteria. But it also is going to be important because of all of our data sharing. So the way the data works within my RealSource and in Paragon is, as soon as that listing is saved, and let's say you didn't add photos, let's say you didn't add a link, let's say you didn't take the time to do captions and descriptions. The problem with that is, once it's live, it gets notified and sent out to all of these data sharing partners that you're seeing here, which is 97% of the state. So a new listing in the back end is read as a new listing data field. So it pulls that very, very quickly. The ones that are regional for us are instantaneous, just like it was for my RealSource members. All our regional ones are on that same platform, so you're seeing it right away as well. All of our data shares, our feed, that can be anywhere from about 20 minutes to an hour for all of our data shares to be able to pull that new listing. So if you are saving the listing and making sure it's perfect before it goes live, all of these data shares, all the syndication sites, all the IDX sites, they're getting that final beautiful product, versus going in later and editing photos or adding anything extra, promotional URLs. It gets actually seen as a media file update. So that's not going to get that push notification that a new listing hit the market. They're not going to see that. They're going to have to remember ABC, or 123 Main Street, and then now check again to see if photos have been added. So you don't want to do that. So just understanding how the listing data works once this is live in Paragon is really important, and really kind of takes off as to where I'm going with the partial function. So everything that Colleen did up to this point, she has now started a listing, pushed it all over into Paragon, and it's set up as a partial listing. So for the sake of this example, I'm going to pretend that Colleen was my admin. She went in and she started this whole listing with the tax records, the data sheet, everything that I sent to her. And now it'll be saved as a partial under my account. So if I want to go in and finalize that, I can actually she could go in, she could assume my identity and put that under my account as the agent. Or if I was her admin, I can go in and I can assume her identity. So if you have an office admin or you have an assistant, you can actually set up assume identity, so that when you have somebody that's maybe uploading the photos for you, or keying in some of the information, or you push over that data sheet and you want them to kind of have that final say, they can actually go in and assume your identity and look at it, edit it as you. But what's really nice is that it tracks what admin did this. So if they'd made some sort of change, you can see that it was Susie that made this change and not Betty that made this change, okay? So I'm gonna go in and I can actually go in and I can assume, show you how quickly it is that you can assume somebody's identity. And let's just pretend that that listing that Colleen set up is now hanging out as a partial in my account. So you're gonna go into listings and partials. And this is that draft. So when you open this up, you saw kind of what Colleen was showing you where you can tab through these data fields. Go ahead, which is really nice. It opens and closes the containers for you so it doesn't seem so overwhelming with all the information, even though it is, of course, a lot of information. All the R's mean that it's a required field, but you can kind of take it container by container as you would like. And then up here is where you can save that listing to make it go live, or save it as a partial where it's going to still hang out there as a draft for you. So now when you go into add and edit pictures, which Colleen mentioned that I was going to show, you can actually upload 99 photos within each listing. Now, the way it's going to load is it's going to load based on the file, number. It's going to load in a nice list for you. It loads very quickly. We have highest resolution. It's going to be around, I can say numbers, but it's around 2,000 to 3,000 PPI, which is going to be really fast for uploading, but still give you that full frame, sharp, crisp photos. And doesn't lag when you're kind of going and scrolling on a browser or in an app where it has to load really high resolution photos. But all the specs are right here for you, and you can go in and you can, make sure that you have high resolution. Now, let's say that the photo that you maybe get sent over from the photographer is higher than this. The system will automatically size it down to the 3,000 by 2,300 PPI for you without distorting the image. So once those photos have been loaded, it's going to go in the order that is numbered and that the photo was taken, but you can simply drag and drop each one of these photos into your preferred order. Now, the way I recommend this is kind of experience it in the order of which they would come home from work, or if you were going to give a professional tour. So it's kind of your choice, but of course you're going to want to have that primary photo. I think quality is more important than quantity, but you still want to be able to have a decent amount of photos, because if somebody gets that notification sent over that a new listing hit the market, meets their criteria, and it's got one photo because they just did the bare minimum, or it only has a few photos, and then they get another one that's got 20, 30, 40 photos added to it, people are gonna gravitate to the photo that has the most contrast, which you're seeing right here with the blue sky, the green grass, as well as quantity of photos. They're gonna click on those ones because that's the first thing that people are looking at. So if you want to learn more about photography, techniques, the flow of photos, all of that I am going to cover a lot deeper, as well as how equipment works, different types of equipment. I do have a photo program that's coming up here in November and December. So I will add those links at the end of this class if that's something that you want to go into, because it's pretty brief in this class. But just know that you can drag the photos in whatever desired order that you would like. You can also hit this little red pen, and this is where you can rotate and crop your photos. So let's say that you took photos with your smartphone. The photos on a phone will change the orientation for when you're looking at the screen. However, the actual file itself could be upside down. So what a pain to have to go into some editor on your computer to change the orientation in case that happened. It's all right here within Paragon. And then you can also add captions and descriptions. So when you're adding captions and descriptions, it's just going to say add a label here. Yep, I added for every single photo here. But so when you click on this, your label allows for up to 25 characters, and the description allows for 255. So as you're typing, it will count down for you so you don't get too carried away. I recommend just at minimum at least one sentence, just kind of describing something that they're looking at here. The way this works is it's just a little sort of bubble that comes up and down on the listing photo. Not distracting. It gets sent over to syndication if you've added it. It's on your single property websites if you've added it. So I really recommend doing that because, like I said, these photos are the first thing that people click on. So when they click on that, you're really getting those highlighting those selling features, that experience of living in this home, kind of just what you would say if you were pointing out things about the home to somebody. The circular driveway, this is a, desired community, 3-car garage, great place, great driveway for entertaining, just highlighting those kinds of things about the home in each photo, because that's going to be the first thing they look at, as well as that description that's like, oh yeah, that is really nice, having these nice built-in benches and hangers for backpacks, purses, briefcase. Oh, a little office space for bills and receipts, just kind of putting that out there. I also like to use the descriptions as a continuity piece. So if the flow of the photos is really important, because you want it to make sense, because they haven't been to this house yet. So the experience from jumping from one room to the next can get a little dicey. I know when I was looking for homes, one of the listings that came through had this really nice updated kitchen, and then all of a sudden it jumped to another kitchen, and I was really confused. Realized that kind of the illusion of the photos of this little updated kitchen was down in the basement. And that was right at the beginning. So I'm get this listing match, open the website for it, start clicking through, and it's like, oh, okay, all right. And then, nope, that was the basement kitchen. So the flow really needs to be kind of that front of the home. Now, if there's a few things that are really, really big selling features of the home, like the land, a pool, really pretty garden, things like that, that maybe you want to get their attention right at the front, maybe one other photo of that, and then save that for the end. So if it is something that's a big, big selling feature, get it out there in the open at the beginning. But I've seen listings come through where it's 5, 6 photos of the front of the home before I even get into the entrance or the living room or the kitchen. So people have about, I mean, the inventory is low, but there's been studies that have been done, about 7 to 10 photos to really get their attention. So if you're wasting 5, 6 photos of just the front of the home, you're not doing anybody a service. So make sure that you save that as a positive conclusion at the end. Get to the main rooms, couple different angles, so that they can kind of piece the flow of that home together. If there's some nice features of the home, which you kind of can see here, this nice backsplash, nice sink, really big island with some really cool lighting. I took some close-up shots of those. So I cover, examples of how you do that, techniques on how you do that, shallow depth of field, deep depth of field, when you should do certain settings in your camera in the photo program. But depending on, what's in this home, couple different angles, maybe a close-up shot here and there, it makes it really memorable. And the room that is next to that one room should kind of flow, cover the bedrooms, cover it level to level, right? And then the bathroom that goes with each bedroom. I've seen a bulk of bedrooms together and a bulk of bathrooms together, jumping from basement kitchen to upstairs kitchen, stuff like that. It all kind of has to flow and make sense. So I recommend doing that. Really easy to do it too, because all you got to do is drag and drop. Now, when you go in and you really want to just kind of look at that property, let's say that you had an admin that came in and pushed some of the data sheet over for you, keyed some information in, but now you, the agent, you're the one that took the photos, you're the one that's listing this home, you better have the final say before it goes out live. Gonna click on that. You can look at it as that report view, make sure everything is looking good, you're happy with it. Those captions and descriptions are coming over nicely, and just kind of that experience of the home. And then you can add right here, Colleen mentioned adding the documents, the disclosures, the lead-based paint, anything in here that you want to add is right here. What I really like is that it's just all bundled right here and broken up in every kind of a widget in a way, walks you through step by step in which the order would be that you're going to finalize this listing. Now, there is an open house and tour option as well. So if you wanted to add any open houses or tours, you can schedule those out, and those will be within the Market Monitor. Those will be on the single property website. They'll also show up on every listing ticket if there's one there, and they can be searched in the open houses and tours under search, tour, and open houses. So if you're just working with somebody and that's the way they want to go about doing that, they want to attend some open houses, they want to see what's happening in their area, you can do a quick search and see everything that's going on near them. Now, if you want your listing to show up as this is where you're going to go and you can hit add new. What's really nice, I don't know how many agents are really using it, but there is a live stream option that they added during the pandemic. So sometimes agents were scheduling out a Zoom link where they had a tour that they were walking through the home. They could show features, scheduled it out on Facebook as an event. That was something that we taught during the pandemic when everybody was shelter in place, but also just a lot of homeowners did not want a bunch of strangers coming through their home, but they still wanted to get that exposure. So you could add a live stream event, schedule that out, and people can watch it virtually. And then, of course, just a traditional open house that you can schedule the dates and the times, add any comments that are important to add there. The tour looks exactly the same. So this is for that scheduled specific date and time that if you wanted to set that up. Now, let's say that you have a promotional video or a aerial footage, you have a walkthrough recording that you did with your phone, that's your own kind of tour. You can actually add that into virtual tours and video tours. So I went back up to maintain listing here. These are all those containers that are nicely organized so you know where to go. And this one is virtual and video tours. Now within Paragon, we have 4 fields. So you're not limited to how you can market this property. And all of these fields get pulled to the proper places. So if you have a video that you maybe just created on your own where you're walking through, highlighting features of the home, and you introduce yourself, you introduce your brokerage, you can have that as a branded tour. If you have one that's just very neutral, you're just walking through, narrating the home, that's it, you're not really promoting yourself as well or your brokerage, you can do the unbranded. So the top one would be unbranded, the second one would be branded. That's where you would, say your name and your office and things like that. Now, if you have like an aerial or promotional video that's done, an interactive floor plan video, all that can be done here too as the video tour or the branded video tour. Lifestyle videos we've seen. What's really nice is if you put these links in the right fields for branded versus an unbranded, the system from the back end sends these URLs to all the proper places, like I said. So if it's branded, it's going to go out to all those syndication places. If it's unbranded, it's going to be within the IDX and the MLS. So you don't have to worry about anybody promoting themselves or their brokerage on your property or anything like that. So just keep that in mind for when you are finalizing your listing. If you do add any extra promotional pieces to your listing, you can do that. Now, once you are all set with your listing, if I was the admin, I would of course save it as a partial. The agent should have the final look and walk through of that experience of the listing. So I'm just going to save it as a partial. If I'm working on this at 2 a.m. and I'm tired and I should probably have fresh eyes on this property, I'm going to save it as a partial and push it live in the morning. Now, if it's all good, you're happy with it, you're satisfied with it, go ahead and hit save listing, and bam, it's going to be live in Paragon and all of our regional MLSs within 20 minutes to 60 minutes for all of our data shares, and it's being plugged as a new listing. So a new listing alert, new push notification, anything that matches that criteria, anybody that's been saved in the auto emails is going to get that new listing experience. Now, Colleen mentioned that we brought on a product called Cubicasa. Cubicasa, I would say, is probably one of our most favorite products that we've recently brought on from many of our agents. It is included in your My Real Source membership. It is a floor plan app. So you can sign up for that within Paragon. I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. A basic floor plan up to 5,000 square feet is included in your My Real Source account. So we are hoping to get a floor plan on every single one of the listings moving forward because of that demand, one, from sellers and buyers. And I mean, apartment sites have floor plans on every one of their types of, apartments. Definitely should have one on every single listing too moving forward. The United States is actually the one that has the least amount of floor plans on properties. It's very common in other parts of the world. So when you create your account, you can do this really easy walkthrough, which I'm going to show you the video. And then there's also some other features that you can add on if you would like at a 25% off discount. So it just seems like they keep growing. They give you the square footage for each room. It is a really, really accurate square footage scan for you and a report that comes through. And you can also brand it to yourself. So you can brand your colors and your company name. You can customize the labels of the rooms if you would like. So all this can be done in that app. So let me just kind of show you guys briefly. I'm not going to play the whole video, don't worry, but how it works, and then also how you submit it. Once that app is downloaded on your phone, you can open that up. You're going to walk the perimeter of the rooms. You can start at the lower level all the way to go all the way up to the upper level, or upper level to the lower level, but it is a continuous scan. So you're going to want to make sure that you don't just do one room, stop, another room, stop. This whole scan is then sent over to Cubicasa. There are real people working on this, which is really nice because then you don't actually have to go in and, edit. They're actually going in and editing it. They're not just hoping for the best that this is, the room that says it is. I was nervous about that with my home because I kind of have a weird layout. I have stairs in the middle of our living room. We have a big fireplace that is so big it looks like a wall. It could look like a wall. Baby gates we have a lot of stuff in the back part of our basement, wall to wall, basically. You can barely even see the wall, lots of boxes stacked. So I was a little nervous sending this in if it was going to detect it accurately, and it did a really great job. Same for Colleen. Colleen had her home built. She did that, and she actually has the architect and square footage and paperwork from all that, and the accuracy of her square footage was spot on with her scan. So definitely recommend downloading this app through My Real Source under resources. And then once you've done your scan, it can take up to about 6 hours to about 24, to kind of depending on what options you choose. But when you submit that scan, you have a lot of choices. You can edit the colors, customizations, and then it gets sent to you. You can save that. It comes over to you as a PDF and as an image file, and then you can upload that image into your listing. And I recommend having that right at the beginning. So you have your beautiful primary photo with contrast and showing the whole house, and then have that floor plan following right behind that, and then the experience of walking through the home. Now, there's a couple things that they have introduced recently that I don't really try to plug too much of all the other bells and whistles. You can see that when you're in the app, and if you want to add a special tour or anything like that. But they recently added this, I guess you could call it, it's like a mix between a Matterport and style interactive dollhouse and just like a really beautiful photography as well. So when you go in, you can choose this as an option to add on. But this link is something that you can go ahead and add into those custom links that we talked about. And when you click on it, it helps create that continuity like I talked about, where the flow of the photos has to make sense. Well, you can see the floor plan, and then you can also see the photo tying it all together. So if I'm standing in the dining room right here, I know that there's a dining room area off over here. I can see it from this view, from that view, from the walk-in. Just really cool. So I really wanted to show this because this just came out the last month or so. And then you can toggle from floor 1 to floor 2. And go ahead and add, if you create that, you can go ahead and you can add that into your listing. So once your listing is live, the last thing that I want to show is your single property website. So when I make this listing live, my RealSource added a single property website to every single one of our listings. So when you get, you'll get an email sent over that you have this website that you can now share, send over to your client so that they can post it. It's a great thing just for kind of putting out there on social media. But what's really nice about it is that you can go in and you can, sorry, one second. Let me pull up this sample listing of one of our board of directors. She recently listed this. I think this was it. Yeah. So when your listing goes live, you'll get an email that says the single property website is ready for you. You can send this on, you can share it on social media, and it's this little house with a check mark. So say you missed the email, or you just want to pull it up really quickly and not have to dig into your email and find it, you can hit this little house with a check, and it's going to pull up that single property website. Now, we brought this on because we were brought this on many years ago, but we were seeing a lot of agents sharing their listing because they want to show, hey, I got a new listing, or hey, I just closed on this listing. Want to let everybody know in every way that they possibly can an exposure to this listing, especially for their clients. They want to see that it exists somewhere out in the world, right? So the problem with that, though, is a lot of agents were sharing it, and then it would have advertising from other agents. Or exposure to other listings that didn't really meet what they were looking for. So we had this designed so that it is branding for that agent, that brokerage, and only their listings. So all their pendings, and then some of their closes within 3 months, and then all their active listings. So we had it designed in a really, simple way. You can schedule a showing. If Maria had an open house scheduled, it would be also there. If she had any virtual videos or tours made, those would be there. High resolution photos are sent over. If Maria added captions and descriptions, that would be on here as well. And then very icon based, which is the trend right now for many years now. Actually, I shouldn't say trend right now, but easy to look at all the important fields that a consumer would want. And guess what? Lead capture, right for you. So anything that gets filled out regarding this will go right to your email about that lead. So once you are satisfied with the listing and you want to get it out there, you can go in and you can easily share this to your Facebook business page. So recommend, based on Facebook's terms and services, is making sure that you have a business page created. You can share that listing to your personal page if you really wanted to, but you want to start it at a business page and then reshare it. So that, for one, you're getting that traction to your business page, or you can see that exposure. That's something that you're going to want to know for your own business, but also for your seller. And then you can share it and kind of hit all aspects, from anybody that you're not friends with on Facebook, but you can boost that, you can promote that on your business page, and then just share it to your personal page as long as the original source came from your business page. So here's where you would write 1 to 3 sentences roughly, just something nice about the property, just listed, and the call to action link. So whether that's to your email, that's your phone number, ask me on here, schedule a showing, things like that, all in that paragraph. So when we were designing this website, we wanted to make sure, because I was seeing out there tiny little thumbnails promoting a property. No, we wanted a large primary photo, you know, the information about the home, the address, right there, front and center on that listing. So now when they click on that, they can go in and they'll open this up. Of course, it's mobile friendly. And then if you have a business page, you can go in, you can boost this if you would like. And we have a class, Colleen and I also teach, called not create a listing. It's a low inventory class. And in this class, we talk about how to properly market your listings on social media, as well as any other ways to capture leads. So in this class, I cover ads and boosting, strategies, ways you can tie products together to capture some leads. Colleen covers demos a few of them. I demo a couple of them, and then also live of Facebook. So definitely recommend keeping an eye out for that class as well. But we do have a little teaser coming. I can't tell you what the product is, but just know that we have a new tool coming that is going to allow you to really, really easily build ads right within Paragon and get that out on social media. So we're integrating some Facebook advertising on every one of our listings that you can opt into and pay for really quick and seamlessly. And that will be coming soon. Hopefully, Colleen, I don't really want to speak too soon, but probably December, right? Kind of what we were hearing this morning.
Yeah, we got an update this morning, and I think it will be December. I'm really excited about this. This is going to be a great new tool. I think people are really going to like it.
Yeah, so you'll have this option as well as what's coming soon with a new product that we'll be launching here in December. So stay tuned. When you see the next low inventory class, that'll probably be tied into it as well. So keep your eyes and ears open about the low inventory class that Colleen and I also teach. So that's it for today for me. Colleen, is there anything else that you wanted to cover?
You did a great job as usual. Like I said, I'm always excited because I always pick up 1 or 2 little things that I didn't know. Actually, the only thing I want to remind people is when we're talking about listings, it usually comes up, what about cloning a listing? The answer is you can clone your own listing. You can never clone anyone else's listings. You can always remember you can never take anyone else's photos. As a matter of fact, we should probably talk about your class coming up in January.
Oh, yeah.
Taylor, you want to tell them a little bit about your class in January? Sorry, I forgot about that.
Yeah, me too, actually. All right, so I teach a copyright Con Ed class, legal Con Ed. You can get 2 legal Con Ed credits. Uh, our company attorney and myself, we teach this class. We talk about what copyrights are, ways that you can protect yourself moving forward and in the past as well. Current lawsuits brewing in the real estate industry. And basically, you know, the proper ways that you should be going around getting your copyrights on all your photos and creative listing works of art, basically. So we go into that. We talk a little bit about AI and kind of some things to be aware of and on the lookout for that. So there's a lot in this class. That will be, I'm going to put all the information for the photo program and then the Con Ed legal class information will be going out soon where you can sign up for that. It will be end of January is what we have. I can't remember the date off the top of my head, but you can't quite register. You can't register for it just yet, but in January or in December, we'll be sending something out where you can register for that.
While we're doing that, I thought I would show you where you can actually go to register for the photos one. I know Taylor's going to include it, but just in case you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't save that link, remember that you can actually register for any of the classes that we talked about, as well as Taylor's upcoming photo classes by going to Paragon resources, and under the education section where you find those recorded classes we talked about, there's also the education corner. And what we did is we put an online flipping book together. So when you want to find out what dates Taylor's photography classes, you can actually go right to the flipping book, click the register here button, and you can sign up for her part 1 on either December 12th or December 19th. And then down below, once you've completed 1, you can also sign up for 2. So that's a great class. I've taken that class. And I thought I took pretty good photos, to be honest. Until I took that class, I was shocked at the tips and techniques. You know, those little hard to photograph powder rooms where you're either in the mirror or, you know, getting the front shot of the toilet and you're like, there's got to be a better way, right? Show you the secret patented. Now I see it. I can tell everyone who was taking your class because they all use this particular shot that you've taught them how to do off the counter into the mirror and getting the whole room. Just stuff I wish I would have known years and years ago. So can't recommend it enough, but definitely sign up for that class because space is limited. But more coming on that. So the last thing I want to leave you with is off market. So when you're talking about listings, one of the questions that always comes up is, okay, well, I've got a listing. I want to reset the days on market. And way back in the day, you used to be able to take it off the market for a day, put it back on, and it would reset days on market. Of course, that was before we had syndication sites that are tracking all of that, right? And then it used to be, okay, well, that didn't work. So we'll take it off the market. We'll change it by $1 and put it back on the market. It does not work like that anymore. Remember, if you need to reset your days on market, it has to be off for a full 30 days. So if you're looking to, you know, refresh a listing, or maybe the homeowner is going to paint and it's going to take 3 weeks, take that full 30 days. When you put it back on day 31, then of course it resets those days on market. So I think that's all I had. But Taylor, as usual, I thought you did a phenomenal job. It's been fun seeing a lot of familiar names too.
One thing, I'm going to add that education corner real quick, just to the chat too, so people have it. I said I was going to add my photo program to it, but actually be easier to just add the whole education corner so that people can click on it right now if they want, sign up for classes. Be on the lookout for communications with the legal Con Ed, as well as our low inventory class too, and then any of the other ones that we have scheduled that Colleen schedules and teaches most of them. So
the fun ones we get to do together.
Yeah, I love the ones we get to teach both of us together.
It is always nice. So, well, enjoy that beautiful fall weather out there, everybody. Again, Taylor's added some great information for you. And don't forget, those cheat sheets are there And if you do have any questions, you have support 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. You can find all of that right in Paragon. So hope you all have a great day and happy selling. Go get some listings so we can have some inventory.
Right. Thank you. Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.